Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone. And today we are here to mark 5th Feb, Kashmir Solidarity Day. And we are here to let people of Kashmir know that the world, the people of Kashmir who are sitting in the diaspora, the people of the world who are engaged with what Kashmiris are going through, and our youth from Pakistan as well, is here to show you the solidarity with the people of Kashmir. And today we are here with a panelist from diverse backgrounds. We have with us Altaf Hossain Wani Sahab. He's the chairman of Kashmir Institute of International Relations. And recently we have seen a malicious campaign against him and his organization and the work he has done. We have with us Muzammil Ayub Thakur. He is the director of Justice Foundation. And yet again, we have seen the people who speak on social media and who have been doing work on ground, how India is vilifying them. And recently we saw UAPA being slapped on Muzammil Ayub Thakur just because of his work for Kashmir and the way he speaks for Kashmir. We have with us Nudrat Sabah. She's communication in charge of WKFM, World Kashmir Freedom Movement, and she's a very well-known social media activist, and many of her Twitter accounts have been suspended because she speaks and writes about Kashmir. And last but not the least, we have with us our very own Shani Hamid with us. She's working for Kashmir, and she has been working very closely with international organizations and government officials and highest level officials. And now she's a properly, officially recognized Kashmiri with us, ready to learn Urdu and Kashmiri as well. So we'll see how are you progressing, inshallah, as we go on further. Without further ado, we have to talk a lot about what's happening in Kashmir, because things are happening at a high pace right now in Indian occupied Kashmir. Be it genocide, be it ethnic cleansing, be it demographic changes, be it fake encounters, name any war crime, and we can say that we have case studies and examples from Indian occupied Kashmir. And who is better to tell us about what is happening right now on the ground than Altaf Hossain Wani Sahab, who has been writing and he has been speaking about the ground realities of Kashmir from many years, and India has officially now recognized him as my mentor. So over to you, Altaf Hossain Wani Sahab, and I would like you to speak about what is happening right now in Indian occupied Kashmir, and do tell us about how people of Kashmir see this solidarity that Pakistan and Pakistani people mark on 5th of Feb every year. Over to you.
Thank you, Shaista, for inviting me to this webinar on this important day, the Kashmir Solidarity Day. Today it's more important because President of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, has inaugurated Kashmir monument in Azad Jammu Kashmir, the capital of Azad Jammu Kashmir, Muzaffarabad. This is a tremendous effort on behalf of the government of Azad Kashmir, the state of Pakistan, and other stakeholders, the engineers, designers who have designed. Is a very beautifully crafted the old history of Kashmir, the ongoing struggle in Indian-occupied Kashmir, and also the pillars of pillage that Pakistan, what has Pakistan do, what the people of Kashmir have to do, what the responsibility the international community has towards the people of Kashmir. So this day is important in that perspective. And no doubt, this is the solidarity which Pakistan has always expressed with the people of Kashmir. And at this crucial time, this solidarity means a lot to the people of Kashmir when there is no hope of life in Kashmir left by the Indian occupational forces and by the Hindutva regime that is this time ruling the India. Now coming to Kashmir, what I can say about Kashmir, everybody knows what is happening in Kashmir and what has been going on in Kashmir since last 7.5 decades, and more importantly from last 3 decades. But currently what we see in the Indian government, on one hand, we see the ongoing human rights violations. They are continuing. The crackdowns, seize and search operations are continuing in Indian occupied Kashmir. We could see the extrajudicial executions, and we could see the demolition of properties and whatnot. And above all, anybody who speaks for Kashmir, who writes for Kashmir, who anywhere uses social media or any other platform to express his dissent towards what Indian government and Indian occupational forces are doing in occupied Kashmir, that dissent is being criminalized at each and every step. We have seen after the detention of our political leaders for a long time, they have been maligned in different cases, they have been put in the jail. After that, India launched a malicious campaign against the social media activists and in diaspora, and also the diaspora leaders. They launched an campaign against them and branded them also as terrorists. And we have seen one of our panelists, Muzammil Oyub Thakur, he has been booked under UAPA, an Indian occupied FIR has been registered against him. So as well as Dr. Asif Dar, who is another media activist, and all other activists who are doing, they are being framed. And Kashmiri journalists, they are living in a very precarious situation. We have seen over the period of time when already the spaces in newspapers, those were chalked, there was no space in the Kashmiri newspapers for the Kashmir news, for the human rights or the history of this dispute. Now they have locked the Kashmir Press Club also. So there is no place for now journalists to sit in. And more recently, we have seen Fahd Shah being called on why he has shown the fake encounter of Pulwama and the killing of 4 innocents, and more importantly, that of the 17-year-old boy whom India branded as a hybrid terrorist. So these things, on the other hand, we see the people are waiting for the dead bodies of their loved ones. They have digged the graves, fathers and their mothers are waiting for them. India has snatched the right to mourn from the people of Kashmir. But despite all these arts, and more importantly, what we see, the voices which were reaching to the international community, through which the India got a lots of criticism from international human rights organizations, from United Nations. Those were the voices of the human rights defenders in Kashmir. And the backbone of human rights defenders in Kashmir, Khurram Parvez, he was booked under UAP again and charged sedition charges and lots of terrorist charges against him. So that is to silence the human rights defenders in Kashmir, thereafter also known to a foot soldier of human rights in Indian occupied Kashmir, who used to use all local means available in different courts. He used to file each and every incident in the court of law through habeas corpus, through other remedies, but no remedy was given, but he was tortured and then booked under UAPA more recently. So the political leadership, the social media activists, the youth, and the human rights defenders, all voices and journalists, they have been now chalked in Indian occupied Kashmir. There is no place for dissent. But despite that, I give the credit to the people of Kashmir, to younger generation of Kashmir, to the women of Kashmir, to the young girls of Kashmir, who despite all this oppression and suppression, they are carrying on their movement and have not shown any signs of fatigue. They continue to work for the Kashmir freedom resistance, despite all these odds. So whatever India is doing, this is now evident to the world. We have seen more recent, because Genocide Watch founder gave his testimony in the US Congress and thereafter a briefing on that. That's an eye-opener for the world. He's a man of experience. He has done so much of research on this, and his predictions have proved very true in past. So he has now totally exposed Indian designs in India and in occupied Kashmir. Now genocide is only one step away, and India is committed to commit a genocide. And to us, India is already committing a genocide in Kashmir because India is in denial, but world community is not yet listening to that denial, whether there's denial or not. Now, the important thing is that more recently we have seen in UK, now the law firm Stroke White has filed a case against criminal charge case in the UK criminal branch police in UK, and this is a first of its type, and we are hopeful that taking into account the human rights traditions the UK has, the UK police will investigate those allegations which have been put forward in that testimony before them of Asa Nuntu and that of the Zia Mustafa, who was a teenager who crossed the line of control and then was booked. After 7 years, he was booked in a murder case. And then those charges were dropped by the court. Court released him. The other court, High Court, released him. But then he was taken to Destiny from the jail, and where he was killed extrajudicially. So India has crossed all the limits of genocide in occupied Kashmir. They're committing the crimes, but that they are not yet ready to realize it. But the hope is that the World Human Rights Fraternity, the way they reacted to the Khurram Parvez's arrest and thereafter, and all the illegal occupation which India has done, the settler colonialism which India has put in Kashmir, we have seen the human rights mechanisms reacting to that regularly. But we want to see the reactions from the international governments. Unfortunately, those reactions are still waiting. But in order to bring the peace to this region, recently, the International Crisis Group has also two conflicts in this region, one that of Afghanistan and the second, the Kashmir, the alarming conflicts in this region that they have asked the European Union to act on this and to see the ways and means to end the Kashmir conflict and resolve this conflict peacefully and to provide the people of Kashmir their right to self-determination for which they are fighting for. I hope that good sense will prevail in the Western world, in the power centers. They will realize what Indian government is doing. It is not only in the Indian occupied Kashmir, what it is doing to the Indian citizens, the Dalits, the minorities, Christian minorities, the Muslims. Now it's open. The reports from the Christian minority group, the report from the Muslim minority group, and recently, only yesterday, the report from the India's own NGO, RAG, which is for the that NGO monitors the civil liberties in India, that said that Indian government has criminalized dissent at each and every step, and civil society under India is also under threat. So I hope that good sense will prevail in the international arena. The good powers will realize it and will come in solidarity with the people of Kashmir and fulfill their legal and moral obligations to protect the lives, dignity, and honor of Indian occupied Kashmir, and give them the right to write their political future. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ilhaq Hussain Wani Saab. You raised many important points in your presentation about the genocide, about what's happening with the minorities, especially in India. And we used to tell people that Kashmir is like an experimental laboratory for what India can do, and now we saw what happened with the minorities in India. You raised many important points, and I'd like to welcome Mukhtar Baba Saab to this event, but to maintain the balance of gender, I'll give the opportunity to Nudrat Sabah, who is the Director of Communication WKFM, and she's a well-known social media activist, and as I have told before, many of her Twitter accounts have been suspended because she writes and she speaks about Kashmir. So to get the perspective from a Pakistani youth who's working for the human rights of and for the freedom struggle of Kashmir, we'd like to get the perspective from a younger generation of Pakistan. How do they see Kashmir, and what are your efforts? And even when Twitter doesn't allow you to speak and write, how do you see your work being progressed in this field? And tell us even about your personal experience as well on working with this Kashmir movement. and your interaction with the people on ground as well. Over to you, Saba.
Thank you so much, Shasta. Shasta Bhavi. I first thank you so much for having me here. And I must tell you that there is a blessing in all kind of disguise, I think, because this is the first time, although Twitter is mainly Indian favoring platform, you could say. They try to favor Indians more. They try to favor Indian journalists. They try to favor Indian government all the time. And actually many times, a lot of times, they're trying to curb our right to the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. So we have seen a lot of trouble in it. But there's also one thing I would really like to, in a way, I have to thank Twitter for it, because this is the first time Pakistanis and Kashmiris have come together. And first time a common Pakistani, a common civilian, a common youth, or a person of any age has actually interacted to a common Kashmiri, because before than that, this was always between the governments or people who were actually working in the professionalism and in activism. So that was a very, you can say that was a very small group who actually kept on meeting each other. But this is the first time I'm seeing people to people interaction that it has a lot of good things in it. Because of that, we made a connection, because what Pakistanis also didn't know and what Kashmiris also didn't know, that people who are in occupation, like I didn't know, many people like me didn't know, my friends didn't know, that people who are living in occupation do not think like the people who live in free world. Because they do not have the certain freedoms, no freedom at all, because they live in a very stressful lifestyle. So they think differently, they feel differently, they have different kind of sensitivities, and people who are in a free world, who any kind of free world, Islamic or non-Islamic, they live differently, they have different kind of setup, but they have different kind of sensitivities. So when I started, this was the first thing that I felt, that there was a gap, and that some people in between, they had to cover that gap to bring them together, to make them understand each other's sensitivities. Okay, because if for example, if you make a little joke and a Kashmiri will think like, take it differently, a Pakistani will take it differently. So this was the first thing I wanted to make them understand about each other. These are not differences; these are just difference of perspective. So that was, but I think in matter of months, we actually covered it very quickly, because I think the reason is because our hearts are together, our hearts beat each other. We Pakistanis cannot help it. It's in our DNA to love and support our Kashmiri brothers. I mean, we can see a lot of issues with each other, but when it comes to, when we hear if we hear of a twin rape in Shopian, or if we hear about the news of encounters and young kids being murdered, being shaheed, being martyred like that, it breaks our heart. I cannot tell you the way we feel, the way we cry, the helplessness that we feel. So social media has brought us closer. It was very important for us to understand each other. And what I want to tell my Kashmiri brothers, my Kashmiri sisters, is be it Kunan Peshpora, be it Shopian's rapes, be it everyday encounters. For example, in the month of January alone, there has been 12 encounters and 23 martyrs in Kashmir, which we don't know who were they and why were they, what were they killed for, and they give them the term militants, and they give them the term terrorists. A country's terrorist is a freedom fighter of another country, of another region. And these are the same people who will support any kind of rights that are going on in any other country. They try to. India is so fake. It's such a superficial country that it actually tries to equate Balochistan with Kashmir, and they try to do propaganda. So what I want to say is that India's propaganda machine is very active all the time. They never sleep. It's like that. They have huge media cells. They have huge propaganda cells. And I think Pakistanis should have realized the importance of propaganda machines and the importance of social media at least 10 years, at least 7 years from now. I think we are 7 years behind being Pakistanis. What we need to do is we need to speed it up. We really need to understand the importance of talking about it. We really need to understand the importance of spreading the awareness. We still do not understand that an RT, a tweet, a post, just going to go and attaching banners about it. So we still need to understand this, because I think Indians have understood it. They have become very organized. But India is into propaganda since 50s, so obviously they are good about it. What I also wanted to say was that we will always be there, because Pakistanis and we understand the issue, the vitality of the issue. You know, there is no, Pakistan understands that the survival of Pakistan and the development of Pakistan it's very important. It cannot happen until the Kashmir dispute is solved and Kashmiris are given to the right of referendum, the right of choosing, the right of expression. So yeah, we have to work a lot, but we have to work together. And I would really push into understanding with each other, into talking to each other. Communication gaps must be filled. There are still communication gaps, and we must fill them. And people who understand on the both of the sides, who have more study in this and more understanding in this, they must come forward. That's very important. And that's very. I also wanted to talk about a little about what Moeed said, that
Yusuf.
he just said a very important point that I just want to quickly add up. He said, we do not want to move forward. Enabling movement and enabling environments has to come from India. So I think Pakistan has now just like sitting is Pakistan, I think, is going to refuse to do anything before that. India needs to come up with some actionable plan. India actually now needs to show that it really wants to solve the problem. Otherwise, Pakistan will keep them pushing with the China, with the help, from the other side, and they will keep on pushing, because we are not going to go back now. Pakistan is not going to planning to step back from its current position, and neither are Pakistanis. That's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nurul Sabah, and that's refreshing to hear from a young Pakistani social media activist, that how they are interacting with people on the ground and how are they working in collaboration with the people on the ground. And it's good to hear that the bridges are now being created and gaps are now being filled. People are now getting in touch with each other and letting to know each other, and that's a really important thing to understand what the mentality and what the sentiments of people are. They have the sentiments they have. We have with us Mukhtar Baba Sahab, and he is the International Media Coordinator of the Chairman of All Parties Hurriyat Conference, Jammu Kashmir. We are very privileged to have him here today. He has first-hand experience of what occupation feel like. He can let us know what a person, simple person, a common person feels like in Kashmir, what a media person feel like in Kashmir, what a freedom fighter goes through in Kashmir. He wears many caps, so we can hear a lot about the different aspects of occupation from a single person. So who better than Mukhtar Baba Sahab to tell us about what it is to be like a Kashmiri in Indian occupied Kashmir. And secondly, we would like to know about how do you feel about the solidarity that Pakistanis show on 5th of February every year, and how it is taken in Indian occupied Kashmir? Do let us know about the ground realities and the sentiments from the ground. Over to you, Mukhtar Baba Sahab. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Shaista ji. It's a privilege to be with your panel, and thank you for having me here on this panel. And very important discussion for the Solidarity Day towards people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir. I will start with the quote of my chairman, Masrat Alam Bhatt, who is presently the chairman of All Party Hurriyat Conference, who says that what you see in Kashmir is Indian occupation. And occupations are not resolved. Occupations are ended. India must go back, and that is it. So it was his famous quote, and every Kashmiri believes it, that it's Indian occupation, which is not, which nobody can resolve. It has to be ended. As far as the Solidarity Day to the people of Kashmir is concerned, that the Pakistan is celebrating this day, 5th of February, every year. But to me, this 5th February 2022, I found a very important change. And thanks to social media, and thanks to particularly the Twitter spaces and the clubhouse, that we got interacted with the people of Pakistan, the 25 crore people who are the ideological, what it called, the soldiers of the Kashmir. So that this is very important, that the 5th February 2022, because for the first time you might have seen a Twitter storm from the Pakistanis, hashtag I'm Kashmir. So I believe it's only because of these what you call the social media that we got interacted. I never know there is a Sabah who is working tirelessly, day out and day in, for the Kashmir cause. So thanks to the social media, I got interacted. This is my personal experience, that I got interacted with the hundreds of the people who are working for. But the very important was they were not knowing what exactly happens in Kashmir, how India tortures us, how India brutally killed us in fake encounters, extrajudicial killing. And Altaf Saab said that for the first time, there is a hue and cry for a custodial killing, for an extrajudicial killing, because the people from the ground told the Pakistani people that, look, Zia Mustafa is from Azad Kashmir, and he has crossed the LOC when he was juvenile. But after some years, he was kept in jail, and then after a few years, the Vandhama massacre, he was accused in the Vandhama massacre. But court has acquitted him. Not only one court, the High Court too has acquitted him. But what they did, because they couldn't produce any what it called evidence against the Zia Mustafa, they took him from the jail and shot him in a cold-blooded manner. But thanks to the people of Pakistan and the people of Kashmir, the activists of the Kashmir, who took this case through the stock white to the what it called, to invoke universal jurisdiction and against the Indian Army chief. So what is our priority should be in 2022, that every Pakistan, in accordance with the Kashmiri, every Kashmiri, because every Kashmiri is a story in itself. We believe that Altaf Saab was here, he spoke, he too is a story. What we should do, we should do a confession statements, and in every part of the world, we should accuse them, we should file a case to and invoke this universal jurisdiction. This is for the first time after 32 years of our struggle that we have invoked this universal jurisdiction. We can invoke this universal jurisdiction in Pakistan too. And as far as and the people of Pakistan can show the solidarity to the people like this as well. The very important thing is that we are crying from last 32 years that human rights violations. What I believe, that we should change our narrative to the war crimes, because somebody has shown us the path, and we should follow that path. Because the human rights, basically India is against what is our basic human right. Basic human right is right of self-determination. So this is a man-made occupation. So we should, that is very important, that is basic human right violation. And what we are suffering is not the mere human rights violations. They are the war crimes. We should make our narrative correct, because as if you go according to United Nations resolutions, the war crime is a serious breach of international law committed against civilians or enemy, quote unquote, enemy combatants during an international or domestic armed conflict. That's very important. And according to international law, that what they are doing, that first of all, on 5th August 2019, they illegally annexed Jammu and Kashmir, which is against the Roman statutes and the violation of the 4th Geneva Convention, and the violation of the United Nations Security Council resolution of 1948, 81, 2003, and so it's very important. India has violated their own constitution as well. They are destructing the civilian properties. They are curbing our religious gatherings. So you will find that Jamia Masjid is locked from so many weeks. They are not allowing us to offer the Friday prayers in the Jamia Masjid, and in the name of what you call COVID. So because for their what you call rallies, they are allowed. Any political rally of Indian what it called politician, you will find people there, maybe in dozens, maybe 100, maybe 200, and there is no protocol of COVID. But for our religious what it called gathering, they in the garb of the SOPs, they locked that because it is not we have to understand this. The world community should know that it is not, they are doing it in the garb of COVID, but it's not that. What they want, that Jamia Masjid is a socio-political entity for the Kashmiris, and that too for the centuries together. And they know that when we go there, we will raise our voice, we will call, we will shout out our heart out that we want Azadi. And not only that, the using of the pellet guns. For the first time, we have to understand that this is the first mass blinding of the people, and we are the victims, the Kashmiris. And we should raise our voice. We should make it, we should tell the world community that we have mass blinding, the first of its kind mass blind. Our kids, our brothers, our sisters, they have been blinded by these pellet guns. And torture. It's not today. They are torturing, the 3rd-degree torture. They are doing it from last 32 years. So I believe the half of the population in the Kashmir, they have faced this torture, and very brutal torture, and you'll find some have renal failures and so many diseases. And not only that, the arbitrary detentions. So India has made sweeping use of this what it calls stringent anti-terror law. First, from last 2 years, it was TADA. Then they changed it into POTA. Now it is something called, which Muzammil Bhai was accused of, UAPA. So we have to, these stringent laws, they have, and which effectively allows people to, they held them without any what it called any case. You will find that our what it called leadership, they are in the jail, whether it is Masrat Alam Bhatt, whether it is Shabir Ahmad Shah, Asia Indrabi, Qasim Faktu, or for that matter, anybody. So they are there under these stringent laws, black laws, and very important enforced disappearances, so that everybody knows that they disappear people and force it, and they in thousands they are there. Sexual violence, that is war tool for the Indian occupational forces, and the very important that half widow. This is for the first time. We have to tell the people, because the people around the globe don't know what exactly half widow means, what we call half widow. And it is only in Kashmir that half widows, that the name, the term given to the Kashmiri woman is half widow. And they don't know where are their husbands, because they never said that we have killed them. So they have simply disappeared them. And the very important is the demographic change. So if you find that what exactly, because they believe that someday, today or tomorrow or there, because I believe, being a Kashmiri, not only I, it's everywhere in the world, that after every dark tunnel there is a light. No occupation sustains, it can sustain for 2 centuries, 3 centuries, but they have to give us the right of self-determination according to United Nations resolution of 5th January 1949. So what they think, that they will change our demography, they will get people, and they will get people from mainland India to put them, that tomorrow there will be a plebiscite, inshallah. What I believe, I hope, yes, definitely the day will come that when this United Nations resolution will be implemented. So they want to change the population ratio in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So and the very important, in everywhere you can find that if there is a fight between the two people, you don't mutilate the dead, they mutilate our deads as well. So the very important thing is that this is our prime responsibility, being a Kashmiri, that we should raise our voices in any part of the world, whether it is London, whether it is America, Belgium, Italy, Europe, anywhere. So because we should tell the people that the inhuman behavior of the Indian occupation in Jammu and Kashmir, and we are witness to that. Because I have seen the torture myself, not once, not twice, thrice I have seen how they treat a political prisoner in the prisons. It's worse than what you'd call the cow sheds of what you'd call America or London. So the very important, and what brutal physical torture, not only physical, mental torture, psychological torture, and it has become a new normal in our lives. So we should get together with the people, the conscious people of the world. We should tell them, we should tell our stories. I believe that there's just what India has done with the people of Kashmir, that we are still 90%, we have not able to tell the world. Just 10% is, because the very important, you will find that there was a censorship after the eruption of the insurgency in Kashmir, and it's not today what you see in Kashmir that there is a censorship. It was in 90 as well. It was in 2010 as well. It's everywhere. They try to choke our voices. They choke our media. And the recent is that not only press club. You see there a design behind everything. The design was that the voice from the what it called press club, it should not go, because after 2019 there were some stories, not all stories, some stories came from occupied Kashmir, but they want that the narrative, the right narrative, which came from the atrocities inflicted on the people of Kashmir, they should not come out from the Kashmir. So they closed, not only closed, the Kashmir Press Club, what they did, they canceled the lease of the Kashmir Press Club. So to be very honest, we need 365 days to tell our miseries to the people around the globe. So just in 1 hour, we are not able to tell every single human being, a civilian, a combatant, a political leader, a shopkeeper, a driver, has a story to tell. Exactly. Because everybody has been beaten, tortured, mutilated, insulted in last 3 decades. So I hope that we people of Kashmir, we will get together to 25 crores of the Pakistanis to tell the world community that yes, we want the right of self-determination according to United Nations resolution of 5th January 1949. Because that is our basic right, because God has made everybody free. but what we feel from last 74 years, man-made occupation, and we want this occupation should end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar Baba, for your excellent presentation and many important points, and your emphasis on storytelling that we have been telling the world and the Pakistani generations and Kashmiri people that storytelling is very important, and we need to let all the stories out from Kashmir and let the world know what Kashmir is going through. And very important message about the social media's importance as well. And the hashtag I am Kashmir is trending right now. And many people are getting involved with this hashtag, and it's a very important step. And these kind of hashtags then become like a political campaign, and people get to know what actually is happening. And the third very important point that I got from your presentation, vocabulary is very important. We need to keep our vocabulary updated. It's not anymore human rights violation in Kashmir. These are war crimes happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. Moving to our next speaker, our very own Shani Hamid, who is International Projects Manager, and she speaks about Kashmir and speaks about Kashmir from heart. And I have been listening to her in many webinars and programs on Kashmir. And I'd like to know, Shani, from you that you're not from Kashmir. What motivated you to speak about Kashmir? What moved you to talk about Kashmir and be an educator of Kashmiri people and the people on the ground? Do let us know what was a turning point for you to speak and to talk about the ground realities of Kashmir? Over to you, Shani.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my honorable sister. Thank you very much, my all honorable participants. Such a pleasure to be with you here today. What motivated me? Because we are all human. At the end of the day, we are all people. We come from different backgrounds, no matter where we live, no matter which side of the world we live, it's north, east, whatever it is. It's just no matter how much money we make, no matter what titles we have, we are on the end, we are people. When we bleed, we bleed. When we hurt, we hurt. When we love, we love. When we cry, we cry. We are people. And to be honest, just to let you know, just give you my little secret. I come from a very poor background. I was from a very wealthy family, moved to a different country, and became very poor, had to endure all the poverty and had to go through all the refugee asylum seeker process and all that stuff. And I know, no matter how invaluable my parents and how great money they made, but as a little child, when I was 6 or 7, I have seen all in a very rich country. And being there, I just knew, and I know how the politics works and all that stuff. And that was from a different foreign country moving to a different Muslim country. And every morning when I wake up, I used to hear the azan, the prayers to God, 5 times or more than 5 times a day. And they were praying to God, Allah, Allahu Akbar, and asking for greatness, prosperity, and forgiveness. And I didn't know the language that time. And I just said, what a happy people these people are every time they are singing and praying for greatness and prosperity. And I just decided that as a child that time, gone through all the hardship and all that, being a foreigner in a different land or being somebody unwanted. And I just said, you know what? Only option I left is just either I accept being beaten down or fight for my rights and study. No matter I'm a girl, I go through all that, whatever abuse a person can go. We'll tell you in a deeper private or whatever gatherings you want. I'm happy to go all the way for the benefit of humanity. So I did work very hard. And I studied hard, I worked hard and didn't give up. And I ended up being eventually coming to UK, United Kingdom, and going to many countries, great establishments, being part of many great political, social establishments because of I really worked hard. I studied, I have been determined to achieve all the grades. So when Kashmir matter came to me a few years ago, I just associated myself with my Kashmiri brothers and sisters who are facing all that inhuman abuses. And then, and of course, by the way, just in between us, I did not know English very well many years ago. I had to learn, I had to work very hard to learn English. Now, thankfully, I speak few languages because I had to learn. So as people to survive, it doesn't matter we are women, man, girl, boy, whatever we are, okay? As human beings to survive, I just realize that we have to really work together and we have to really accept the reality and see what is our horizon and just to decide which side of the equation we stand. So this is how I'm in with Kashmiri brothers and sisters. I love you all. And I think you all are going through these hardships and I somehow deeply associate with you and I know how difficult it can be. However, I know how possible it can be if we really work together within one solid mindset. So today, to go back to our reality, I'm here with you and I promise you I'm committed with you all the way. Let's talk about politics. And I'll go back to this, what political situation does allow us and what the law and what we can really do as brothers and sisters together. And forgive me for stating the exact codes from my notes. So by now we all know that there are a set of international rules established by treaty or custom on the basis of which individuals and groups can expect and or claim certain rights and must be respected and protected by their states, which called the international human rights law. The law that includes conventions of the prevention and punishment of crime of genocide, and the Convention on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. Furthermore, India is signatory of these conventions, which the commitment to follow the articles of the international human rights law. If she didn't, she should face the necessary sanctions as agreed on the common sense level. However, when we look at the reality, human rights abuses, enforced disappearances, mass killings, torture, rape, and sexual abuse, political repression, suppression of freedom of speech are taking their toll in many regions in India, with one particularly intensified in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which all allowed by some Indian government representatives. Despite the United Nations Millennium Declaration adopted in September 2000, the one that promising human rights, democracy, good governance to everyone. And despite that, United Nations World Summit Declaration, which clearly stated sovereignty comes from the people of nations, not from its rulers. In fact, to go further, United Nations, with an additional protocol assuring everyone with stating people based on respect for the principle of equal rights and fair equality have the right to freely choose their sovereignty and international political status with no interference. But on the other side, with reminder to everyone, again, another agreement says self-determination movements demands need to be accepted by the existing sovereign state before the international community can formally engage with them. Alas, this is exactly how India's current government, which administered by Modi and his team, is getting away with their pre-planned, well-calculated colonialist settlement fulfilled with human rights abuses and genocide practices in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. All practiced Special Forces Powers Act. with all taking their lawful stand from the previously highlighted inconsistencies in international treaties and law. Besides, this is exactly how, in 5th of August 2019, India's union government took the Kashmiris' right to self-determination and made the entire constitution of India applicable to the state. Then, Indian Army, Central Reserve Police Force, Border Security personnel, militant groups, now practicing their trial and error fulfilled applications upon their residence in the occupied Kashmir with no human rights options that left to the victims. Well, as you can see, the self-determination movements and demands are easily being manipulated in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, all because the contradicting law articles and the global trade agendas of Mr. Modi and his global trade partners. Plus, after all, this is exactly how the self-determination movements and demands and in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir has been indicted to the world as an internal security situation created by some insurgent groups. And we know the rest of the lies. Also, never to forget that colonialism and international law is usually related to. Hence, this is exactly why today we strongly demand from the United Nations Security Council to put its acts together and to imply a consistency in the previously mentioned articles. Plus, as a solution to this ongoing paradox, we have to insist on and enhance the civil collaboration and solidarity applications. We are not there yet. I got to tell you, we are not there yet. Then shift this long enough lasted awareness-raising programs into one coherent, united international movement program. This is the next stage. We got to do that. So with working under one umbrella, we need to intensify our focus towards lobbying the precise decision makers of the government, associations, treaties, pacts, businesses, and NGOs. We need to make sure the continuation of the jobs, projects, and programs are within a coherent sustainability. We need to insist on fighting against corruption, focus on education, and use the power of the reliable media to stand these multiple fronts together. Further to all, we need to continue to demand that India's Armed Forces Special Powers Acts and all other undemocratic applications revision towards a democratic form. So the living conditions for all the vulnerable citizens in the country, as well as in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, will become better. So yes, absolutely, and ultimately, we can achieve human rights, democracy, good governance, and peace if we truly dedicate our efforts to work for the favor of people, with power of people, within solidarity, determination, and control. And I promise you that this can happen going back to my previous experiences of background. I had just completed half of a century of my lifetime. So I promise you that if we really work determinedly, if we really go for it, and if we unite, we can really achieve. As long as God allows us to be healthy, there is nothing we can not achieve. And my last words, love you all. God bless you all. Jive Pakistan, Jive Kashmir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shani Hamid, and for sharing your personal experience with us, as well as reminding the world that they don't have to be a Kashmiri to speak about Kashmir. They have to be human to speak about the humanitarian crisis that's happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. And your solidarity and your love for Kashmiri people on the ground, they are listening to you, they are following you, and we, the people of Kashmir and diaspora, thank you for your efforts for Kashmir. And you raised very important points about the effectiveness and efficient and sustainability of the movement that we are going through. Our next speaker, last but not the least, Muzammil Ayub Thakur. He is the director of Justice Foundation. And I would like to know, Mr. Muzammil Ayub Thakur, you have been portrayed as an enemy number one on prime time Indian media and Indian channels. And you have been recently charged and slapped with the UAPA, the infamous law that is that India has now for the people of Kashmir especially. How does it feel to be the enemy number one of India? And let our audience know, what have you actually done that India had to charge you with the UAPA law? Platform and the space is yours, Mr. Muzammil Ayub Thakur.
Thank you very much. It's an interesting introduction. Normally, it's such platforms, or people are not given platforms that are considered to be enemy number one of any country. So I take it on the chin. I take it with great pride that India finds me to be troublesome for them. But at the same time, I think we need to recognize one important thing, that it isn't just the people, although the people inside Indian occupied Kashmir face the worst forms of atrocities and persecution, India are now establishing or attempting to establish the same forms of persecution to those people that reside outside of Kashmir as well. It isn't just me, it includes Dr. Asif Dar. He has also been charged under the UAPA. His family are routinely harassed, if not every day, every other day. And of course, there are many of my family members that have been tortured and have been killed as well because of the work that we do. This is a reality. These aren't coincidences. India have a strategic plan in place to make sure that the voices inside Kashmir are silenced and any voice outside of Kashmir is also silenced. But here's the thing. This tahreek is not dependent on me. It is not dependent on you. It is not dependent on any singular person. This tahreek is a just movement. It is an honest movement. It is for right to self-determination. There are no lies. There are no fictitious activities that we have purported to have happened inside Kashmir. This is all the truth. As long as Mukhtar Saab is around, as long as Altaf Wani Saab is around, as long as Sabah is around, and as long as you are around, this tahreek lives on. So whatever happens to me is irrelevant. As long as this tahreek, this movement for right to self-determination lives on, that is what is important. We are prepared to make that sacrifice. We are continuously prepared to give whatever it takes for the liberation of the people of Kashmir. If they can stand their ground, remain optimistic, have faith, be brave, not bow, not break, not bend, then there is no excuse for people like me and no excuse for those people that enjoy the privileges of living in the West or any other country outside of Kashmir, that we cannot contribute and we cannot do what we can. There is a phenomenal amount of work that needs to be done that isn't being done, mainly because people tend to find their comfort zones and not step out of them. If we remain in those comfort zones, then we are not going to rattle the Indian system. We are not going to shake the foundations of India. And that is what it is going to take. It is not about spitting water at India. They are committing atrocities. They are committing war crimes. They are committing genocide and ethnic cleansing. They are performing settler colonialism to force demographic change so that the makeup of the people of Kashmir will be less of Muslims and more of Indian Hindus, settler colonists. And if that happens, this tahreek is going to go towards its demise. So what can we do? A lot. The 5th of February is a moment to reinvigorate and revitalize and reimagine the movement of the Indian occupied Kashmir. It is an important day for the people of Kashmir to see. I mean, it's not a day, it's not 24 hours. It is, even if it's 1 hour of your entire year that you are showing solidarity with the people of Kashmir, that gives us 1 year of optimism and hope that this tahreek is not going to die with us, that the people of Pakistan and the rest of the world still not only stand in solidarity with the people of Kashmir, but are willing to contribute towards the liberation movement of Kashmir against the Indian occupation and subjugation and oppression and the war crimes and the crimes against humanity and the pellets and the bullets and the murder and the rapes and the enforced disappearances and the human shields. I mean, there is a huge list of things. Where do we start and where do we end? In the words of Mukhtar Saab, every single person has a story. We don't have the time. I don't think even one lifetime is enough to talk about the atrocities that have happened inside Kashmir. It is the collective memories of the people of Kashmir that keep us alive, keep this Tehreek alive, and that need to be remembered and with the greatest amount of respect, to be revered. Our memories and our history must be revered. And the reason for that is because India is directly, and I'm not using this as a figurative term, I mean literally, India is trying to erase our history by going back into our newspapers, our articles, online journals, whatever has been published and printed, and they are deleting them one by one. Ask the journalists inside Kashmir, look at their websites. A lot of those articles are being deleted. Our history is being deleted, which is why it is important that on Solidarity Day, that it is a representation, it is a reaffirmation of our solidarity with Kashmir. But when you reaffirm your solidarity, it means that you have to contribute as well. It is not enough to be reminded of what Kashmir, or what is happening inside Kashmir. That is not enough. You have to actively contribute towards the liberation movement. And if those people that claim to be friends of the people occupied anywhere in the world, you only need to look at, for example, Afghanistan. You need to look at Palestine. You need to look at Syria. You need to look at the Rohingya and the contributions that normal people, civilians, everyday people make towards those struggles, be it through Twitter, be it through protesting on the streets, be it through writing articles or policy papers or appeals, or as Stoke White did and Legal Forum for Kashmir with Nasir Qadri, submitting these dossiers against war criminals, be it submitting reports and research documents. This is the work that needs to be done, because this is the work that other freedom struggles are contributing towards their movements, which means it is incumbent upon us to do exactly the same thing, because those things are part of the systems that work. We need to use and look at the institutions that offer avenues for people like us to utilize, use those opportunities to not only expose India, but actually work towards liberating Kashmir. It isn't enough that we expose India. That isn't enough for us. Unka beg niqab karke, what are we supposed to do? Our liberation is not going to. Pakistan have created just recently 2 dossiers, completely annihilating the false premise of Indian so-called democracy. Completely annihilated it. India could not even utter a word against it. They were unable to even defend themselves. But that isn't enough. More needs to be done. Whatever the government of Pakistan is doing, they are doing to the utmost of their ability. Whatever the institutions are doing, they are doing to the best of their abilities. There is an onus of responsibility on you, on me, and everybody around us. We are grassroots, and it is grassroots activism that works. You only need to look as far as the Arab Spring. You need to look as far as maybe even Occupy Wall Street. Look as far as any other grassroots activist, Black Lives Matter, how much that works. It is through grassroots activism that contributes towards policies, that contributes towards negating propaganda that is perpetuated by occupiers and subjugators. That is what is going to contribute, and everything in between. When it comes to governmental level, there is also non-governmental level, institutional level, grassroots level. There are so many levels in between that we are not focused on, or we are lacking in capability of. So that said, it requires a lot more to be done by the diaspora. We cannot give the onus of responsibility on the people of Kashmir. They have stood firm for 74 years. They have sacrificed for far too long and for far too much. It is now our responsibility. The burden of burden is shouldered on Mukhtar Saab, on Sabah, on Shaista, on Sheni, on me, and everybody else that enjoys living in privilege, the freedoms of privilege that we currently reside in. It is our collective responsibility. And how do we do that? Getting activated, recognizing what needs to be done, creating a strategy, building our contacts, building a better network, and then efficiently identifying those people that can contribute. And if we are unable to do those activities, look for people that are able to do it. Look beyond your own circles. It is not necessary that a Kashmiri has all the skills. The Palestinians have been struggling for as long as we have. Can we not ask them for their guidance and their assistance and their wisdom and their help? Can we not ask the Rohingya? Can we not work with the people of Afghanistan? Can we not work with the people of Sudan? There are plenty of other nations around the world that also suffer. and a unified approach. And the reason we are identifying these Muslims is because this war is a war on Islam. It is not just a war on the people of Kashmir or on the state of Pakistan. It is what we represent. And we represent the Muslim identity. I think I don't want to stretch it too far, so I'll probably close there. But I will say that we thank the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan for remembering for more than 30 years commemorating Kashmir Solidarity Day. But as Sabah said, now that we are able to connect with one another, the people on the ground in the diaspora are being able to connect with the people of Pakistan and even beyond, the Muslims, the people that identify themselves as Muslims, and even for that matter, people that identify themselves as humanitarians, people that stand for justice and peace. We can connect with those people as well. So it is about asking them to also recognize Kashmir Solidarity Day and making sure that their contributions are worthy enough for our Tehreek. Liberation is not difficult. Getting freedom would not be that difficult if we were better organized, better qualified, better connected, better networked, and better skilled. And the way to get that done is by having an element of ittihad, unity. And I don't mean, I don't generalize when I say unity, I mean specific unity with those people that agree with the principles of our Tehreek, those people that agree with the ideology of our Qaideen, those people that are willing to represent genuinely the Shuhada of Kashmir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Muzammil Ayub Thakur Sahab, and you made many excellent points. And you very rightly said that one lifetime is not enough to tell the ground realities of Kashmir, and we can't do justice in just 1 hour of a Zoom program or a Twitter space to let the world know what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. And you very rightly pointed out that we need to see the common terms with community outside our own, where we can relate with and resonate with the people like people of Palestine, people of Afghanistan, people of Azerbaijan, people of Turkey. We need to find those common terms and common grounds where we can relate ourselves to other moments that are happening in the world as well. With that note, and with saying that when we talk about Kashmir, we have to remember that there's a human aspect, there's a human impact as well. And when we Kashmiris are not just numbers, and we are not just reduced to statistics. We are human beings. Every number, every name has a face behind it. Every name has a family behind it and friend behind it. So we need to let people know, as Mukhtar Baba in his presentation and Muzammil Ayub Thakur in his presentation as well said, that we need to let the stories come out from Kashmir, and we need to let the world know what actually is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. And what better way than these conferences and seminars and webinars and Twitter spaces to let the world know that people of Kashmir do have voice, and indigenous people either living inside Indian occupied Kashmir or living in diaspora, they are speaking out, they are letting the stories come out, they are speaking, and even they are screaming what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. The people of the world need now to hear what the people of Kashmir have to say. And we have been saying very loud and clear that we want right of self-determination. We want freedom from Indian occupation. With that note, I would like to thank all my esteemed panelists, all Altaf Hussain Wani Sahab, Mukhtar Baba Sahab, Nudrat Sabah, Shini Hamid, and last but not least, Muzammil Ayub Thakur Sahab. Thank you very much for joining us today, joining Youth Forum for Kashmir today. On this special occasion of 5th Feb Solidarity Day that Pakistan every year marks and shows solidarity with the people of Kashmir. With that note, I'd like to end this Zoom conference, and we'll hopefully see each other in another space talking about Kashmir, sharing the stories of Kashmir, and letting the world know what Kashmir is all about. I thank you all, and I thank Youth Forum for Kashmir for providing this platform to us where we can share our experiences and our thoughts with each other. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.